Hello, everybody. This is Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we just squeak by. We've been scanning films, and it's been a bunch of films that were stuck in rusty cans that I'm trying to deal with. And so, anyways, here we are. Hope everybody had a great weekend. This film I realized I showed like 5 years ago, but it's due. And I have a lot of new people watching the show, so who weren't watching in August of 2020. And so this one is probably new to you. But what I delight in here at AV Geeks is showing you 16 millimeter films of things that you couldn't possibly grasp. And this one is a lonely scarecrow who has body odor. Enjoy.
This is me. Do you know who I am? The Lonely Scarecrow. My story started one spring morning on a farm. I wasn't even made then. Barbara and Frank were visiting their grandfather for a few days and watching him plant corn. Just as he was coming for more seed to plant, Frank and Barbara began to shout about crows in the field. What a nuisance crows can be. They do love to eat corn. They can pluck the kernels right out of the ground about as fast as a farmer can plant them. Well, they chased those pesky birds away but could do much damage. But Grandfather remembered when he was a boy about Frank's age, he had made a man out of straw and old clothes to scare the crows. A scarecrow. Yes, Frank and Barbara both had read about how farmers used to make scarecrows to protect their fields. And that's how I got started. Back at the barn, they got together all the things they'd need to build me. Frank brought some good straw. That would be my insides. Then Grandpa nailed together something to hold up my outsides. A wooden frame. They made me a happy face. They put Grandpa's old shirt and overalls on the frame and stuffed them with straw. They filled me up nice and round and put me all together. And then I was finished. Wasn't I handsome? All I needed now was a hat. There. Well, there I stood, all set to watch over the field. Frank spotted the crows. They didn't like having me around one bit. I could tell that from their cawing. They weren't sure what I was, but they'd find out before too long. I'd be protecting that field until the corn sprouted and grew and ripened. I could tell that Frank and Barbara were kind of sad to leave me. They thought I'd be lonely out there. The next day, Grandpa took Frank and Barbara home. They'd be back in a few months. I was glad they stopped to say goodbye to me. I was going to miss them. I watched them go, and I was sad too. But I knew my job would keep me busy watching. And it was an important job, too. Yes, sir. Well, at the start, I was a little lonely. There didn't seem to be anyone around. But then I started looking carefully. The trees in the woodlot were putting on their green spring finery. In some spots, there were beautifully colored wildflowers. Then, one day, I saw something moving. Over there, under the trees. A skunk. She seemed very busy searching for food after her long winter's sleep. Those first days that I was alone, I spotted a raccoon and an opossum, too. And close by in another tree, there was a deer mouse, kind of quiet and shy. You know how some folks are. So even though I didn't have any visitors, I wasn't really alone out there in the cornfield. I watched a busy squirrel that lived in the woodlot. He seemed to be minding everybody's business. Then he'd run and scamper and chatter away. The birds were too busy building their nests or warming their eggs to pay any attention to squirrel nonsense. And sometimes those birds would sing. But there was one bird call I didn't take to. I sure didn't like the cawing of those pesky crows. They hadn't forgotten the sweet corn seeds. So finally they got brave enough to come down to the field, hoping I wouldn't see them. But I saw them and I scared them the only way I could, by flapping my arms. That sent them packing for home every time. My flapping kept them flying out of the cornfield I had to protect. At the edge of the field, I had more pleasant bird neighbors, a family of bobolinks that had made their home in the tall grass. Yes, sir, I had lots of neighbors out there. Of course, you had to look sharp to see some of them, like the nervous little gophers and the frisky field mouse. And almost right under my feet, I had other neighbors that lived mostly underground, the ants that were forever running from their nest, and an earthworm that churned up the soil. Lonely? Me? I should say not. Not with so much company living nearby. And as the spring days grew warmer and longer, the young corn sprouts began to push up out of the ground and stripe the field with green. I could see that they were good, strong plants, and I was proud that I'd protected them from the pesky crows. Those corn plants weren't the only young things around either. Why, out in the woodlot, Mrs. Possum was toting her brood of young'uns around. And Mrs. Raccoon was teaching her offspring how to search for food. So was Mrs. Skunk. In her nest in the long grass, Mother Bobolink was feeding her soft, downy fledglings. A mother rabbit had moved into the short grass where she'd made a nest for her babies. It was one of her babies that gave me the scare of my life. It didn't happen in the spring, but later, in the summer, when the corn plants had grown big and tall, almost up to my shoulders. On one plant, a spider had strung the silvery threads of its web to catch insects the spider ate. Most times, the spider didn't have long to wait. My field was swarming with insects. I couldn't tell you how many kinds there were. Flying insects, hopping insects, and walking insects. One thing I do know, birds living in the woodlot came on many a visit to find and eat those insects like they were some delicious treat. But I noticed that there was one bird, a hawk, who would settle for insects only if there was nothing better. Just the sight of him hovering there, scouting for his dinner, sent a lot of my neighbors running for cover. It looked to me like the hawk wasn't going to find a big dinner today. Or was he? Because I looked down and, oh, there was one of the young rabbits that lived at the edge of the field. She was too busy eating to see the hawk, but he saw her all right. He wasn't scared of me, but maybe if I flapped my arms, he'd take his sharp eyes off her for just a second. He did, and that second was all the rabbit needed to scamper away between the tall corn plants. Well, this was one time he wouldn't have rabbit for supper. But I hoped the little rabbit had learned a good lesson. And that was the day Barbara and Frank came back to visit their grandfather's farm. They pushed their way through the tall corn to see me. They hadn't seen me since spring. And I was sure glad to see them again. Grandpa didn't have to tell them what a good job I had done protecting the cornfield. They could see. Frank and Barbara were real proud of me. Yet they kept thinking that I had led a very lonely life. But you and I know that I hadn't. Maybe you could tell them why. You could write a story or draw pictures of the many animals that were my neighbors. Could you do that? That would make me a very happy Scarecrow.
All right, so it's obvious I need glasses. I looked at the, it's kind of faded out here, but I looked at the description, and I thought it said body washing. I was like, oh, so this is like a film about hygiene. But no, it was busy watching. Busy watching. So these glasses, we have to update them. So it was not about a Scarecrow with BO, but it creeped us out nonetheless. Here's human use of space technology, and this is what we call a kinescope. So they shot this on video, or they shot this on film, but they edited it on video and added titles, Chiron stuff, maybe some other things. And then when they released it, they probably released a videotape version of it on U-matic, maybe VHS. But they also knew that the vast majority of schools still had 16mm projectors. So they made a kinescope of it, which is basically you have a film camera that's aimed at a monitor. That's like the best monitor that they had at the time. And they recorded it to film, and then they made dupes of the film. And that's what I have. So this is, like I said, human use of space technology. Enjoy.
We developed the technology to explore space. It in fact has begun the most surprising exploration of our own planet Earth, and it is profoundly changing the way we live on it.
You can actually get an Associate of Arts degree by watching television programs.
Satellite imagery can give you some warning on this, the famine in Africa in particular.
Now with advanced miniaturization technology, we're able to implant much smaller pacemakers.
Scientists designed vehicles to explore the universe. Almost no one guessed what this would do to life here on Earth. Our story begins with the fact that in order for man to explore space, a few very basic problems had to be overcome. First, a vehicle had to be created that could get into space and stay there. Astronauts had to survive and their daily needs be supplied in a new world of zero gravity. They had to be able to work, to communicate back and forth to Earth, and all of this within a miniaturized world floating in the sky. In order to accomplish this, the decision was made to spend billions of dollars in both the United States and the Soviet Union. By the time they had finished, they had created a space program, all right, but they had also created a technological revolution on Earth. It was one that spawned industrial giants, changed the everyday products of life, and created ways to communicate around the globe never imagined.
This is President Eisenhower speaking. It is a great personal satisfaction to participate in this first experiment in communications involving the use of the satellite balloon known as ECHO.
As ECHO beamed its little satellite message across the world, it's safe to say that neither Eisenhower nor anybody else for that matter, with the exception of a few futurists, understood that we were about to become a world of satellites. And even the futurists probably only had the dimmest knowledge of what that would mean. Because, in fact, the ability to beam picture and sound from a satellite in the sky down to a dish on the Earth was about to revolutionize the way we live in a profound way. Take Shishmaref, for example. Below this plane live approximately 400 people in a community that has existed in near total isolation from the rest of civilization for centuries. This is the village of Shishmaref by the Arctic Circle, not too far away from the Soviet Union, right off the tip of Alaska. And this dog sled is how they used to get information and messages back and forth, which meant that not much did. Even with the advent of airplanes and cars, it didn't help too much because it was so remote. It actually wasn't until the space age came in that Shishmaref was transformed. Space technology probably did as much to connect Shishmaref to the rest of the world as it did to send man to the moon.
We're using power tools, now they're using hand tools. Seeing as much as possible.
Well, they're going back in time.
One of the first things to happen to them was TV via satellite.
This is the machine.
Many of these Eskimo children still haven't been out of Shishmaref themselves, but they explained that they had already seen the world in ways their parents never dreamed of via
Setting
TV.
up this easel.
I know what an easel is, but I've never...
Their parents at best would have had one, maybe two teachers to live in Shishmaref and give them their entire education. Today, a multitude of teachers and courses comes across to them on TV. Let me ask you, do you think you learn a lot more having these programs come in on television than your parents did before they had this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it good
Yeah.
to learn about the rest of the world and these things?
Yeah.
Their parents harvested sea mammals and reindeer herds. These children can now receive an entire college education via the satellite TV and the satellite telephone.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Charlie in Dillingham calling for the conference this afternoon. Hi,
It's possible now with the technology that we have and some of the programs that are working between the community colleges and the university system that you can actually get an Associate of Arts degree by never attending a classroom, by watching television programs that you take for credit.
Education and communication are done by Alaskan satellite in Shishmaref. Even medicine here is done by satellite.
and take your coat off.
The lone nurse responsible for this entire community is connected via a hotline to a team of doctors who are able to give her expert advice on a complicated case or rush in a plane for a patient in a genuine emergency situation in a community that still makes OBGYN calls on a dog sled. Shishmaref is not alone. Satellites have become so ubiquitous over the years that they have become not only the new dog sled on the ground, but the Earth's new workhorse in the sky. The Soviets say that they have done as much to help the Soviet Union as the Eskimos in Shishmaref.
So even very small and modest facilities which we have now in space already have changed our way of life. We have space-based telecommunication, which made our own planet as very home-like now. Everyone could get a telephone call from another continent over the ocean instantly for a cheaper price. Television, any kind of service.
They've taken over so many jobs that filling the sky today is such a startling array of satellites that some worry that we are about to have the first traffic jam in space. A lot of this traffic is from satellites beaming TV all over the Earth, because without question, satellites are totally transforming the world of television. A few years ago, having the Ayatollah Khomeini broadcast live into your living room via satellite as he was about to take over Iran would have been impossible. Today, it's business as usual. Seeing the Olympics live in your tent in Saudi Arabia in the past would have been unthinkable. Today, it goes on every time the Olympics go on. This is the Great Wall of China. It is said to be the only man-made object. In short, I can talk to you instantly from the Great Wall in China, from the Soviet Union, or from the Straits of Hormuz. Oil and plenty of it. The ability to beam and receive TV pictures instantly around the world has totally changed what people can see, hear, and know about the world. The impact of this politically and economically is so great that most experts feel that short of the invention of the television itself, this has been the most important revolution in communication. A revolution in both the content and the structure of a powerful industry.
Houston now controlling. Mission control confirms roll maneuver started. Thrust looks good. Roll maneuver completed. 1 nautical mile in altitude. Throttling engines down to 65% now. Flatboard status looks good. Mission control.
Thank you.
Puccino la linea.
Okay, Puccino, Tango here. Yes, I'm sending you a television program. Big football match from Brazil. Please check my video and audio.
We see you, Tango. Levels are excellent.
Okay, thank you. Arrivederci.
Allô Gandoul, ici la télévision sénégalaise.
C'est en provenance de Paris FR3.
On vous reçoit très bien.
Auguste Tain, que le président de la République a décoré tout à l'heure.
Some of the most significant changes were felt here. This is ABC, and in the past, it wielded an impressive amount of power over what people saw on television. It was one of the 4 major networks that existed in the United States, and the handful of people running them decided what you would see on television. If they chose to spend the money to bring back film from a foreign war and put it on television, you saw it. If they didn't, you didn't. Today, that's all changed. Satellites today have made broadcasting so instant and so cheap that over 100 different channels have sprung up in the United States alone. News is coming instantly from everywhere. In other words, satellites changed the power within a major industry in the United States and the news you see. The change in communications has gone far beyond formal television broadcasts. We, in fact, have become a world of omnipresent information in which distances no longer mean much of anything. Almost anybody can see anybody. For that matter, almost anybody can talk to anybody via satellite, anywhere, instantly.
Greetings from Washington. Chancellor Cole is with us all the way from Athens, Greece. Along with you astronauts hovering in space with me here in Washington and the whole world listening, this is one heck of a conference call.
The new world of conference calls and satellite phones is creating a new world of business possibilities. You can now instantly phone your local stockbroker in Kuwait to trade some oil futures while you sit in London. Not only can you use the equipment to find better deals faster, you can even use it to find people. Have the satellites made much of a difference with the search and rescue problem out here in Alaska?
Satellites have been a great innovation as far as rescue is being concerned. In fact, before the American satellite was launched, the Russian satellite has been responsible for a total of almost 500 rescues throughout the whole of the United States. In Alaska itself, it's been responsible for about 20 to 30. But now that we have our own American satellite up there, that's helping out as well.
Yeah, March 2nd, about 1700 hours, we had a NOAA helicopter was going to Nome to Fairbanks. Had some bad weather and encountered some turbulence, and he landed on the ice offshore from Moses Point, wasn't sure where he was, and he took off and hit some turbulence and crashed. SARSAT, the satellite that picks up ELT signals, had picked up these different various hits, and then we plotted them here on the board, and the aircraft in the area searching were picking up the ELT in this area. Finally, they went over and tried in this cluster, and they found the helicopter offshore about 11 miles from Moses Point. And the Civil Air Patrol plane found some hard ice, landed nearby, picked up 2 survivors who had spent the night, and brought them back to Nome. The next day, they went out with another helicopter to try to recover the fuselage. And the helicopter and the ice had drifted, and the helicopter had sunk. So these 2 men from Miami, Florida were extremely lucky that the Civil Air Patrol found them when they did, because the next day their wreckage had sunk.
The ubiquitous satellite, however, is only one part of the space-age transformation of Earth. The second part of the story is computerization. As the space race escalated, billions of dollars were poured into designing ever more advanced computerization for the spacecraft. The White House funded millions of dollars worth of R&D in the computer world. In addition, the Department of Defense poured millions in for its own R&D needs.
A lot of money goes into expensive technology.
The result is a technological revolution in computerization that is only beginning, say the experts.
So that because of the orbit calculations which went on here at the Smithsonian Observatory, it was necessary to have what was then the most advanced kind of computer that the scientists could get, which happened to be an IBM 704. It filled an entire room because of all the vacuum tubes in it, and it had such a small memory. Nowadays, if you have a personal computer sitting on your desk, you have far more memory and far more speed than that entire room had. This will soon have further ramifications. You'll be able to do your banking from home, order your theater tickets from home, check up to make sure you've locked the front door when you're away.
IBM, of the old vacuum tube calculator, began to get massive contracts from President Kennedy to develop computerization to make the space program work. He wanted something to guide the 2-man Gemini capsule, guidance for the Saturn launches, to track the Mercury vehicles and astronauts, to compute theoretical space exploration, to operate computers on the orbiting astronomical observatories, and to land men on the moon, to also computer-enhanced photos of Mars. By the time it was all done, IBM and others in the computer world had created electronic computers that could execute instructions in a billionth of a second. They had perfected data processing that worked 400 times faster than it did in the mid-50s at 1/200th of the cost. As one expert put it, President Kennedy probably did as much to create IBM as its own founder did. Together, they created today's new world of high-tech computerization. Silicon Valley and the microchip industry exploded onto the scene with a new world of high-tech, fierce competition, and billions of dollars to be made from products that are filtering down from space technology into the home and the office. It has become a new world of miniaturized personal computers, digitalized alarm clocks. This new world of tiny ticking devices that can calculate, think, and perform, along with the new lightweight materials to encase everything sent into space, has begun to impact almost every walk of life. One of them is medicine.
Well, see, at the time that we were trying to put man into space, there wasn't any way really to do any kind of remote monitoring. I mean, physicians had traditionally been able to sit you on an examination table or here in a chair and take a stethoscope, and my stethoscope tubes are this long, and I put the stethoscope on you. And here I was being asked to stretch a stethoscope really to 100 miles and finally 240,000 miles out to the moon, and then we're talking about stretching it further out to Mars. It called for a whole new way of doing things, and so we started doing that, and as we began to develop that kind of instrumentation, then all of the monitoring techniques that we have today, whether you have a coronary and you end up getting picked up at home in an ambulance and your electrocardiogram can now be sent ahead to the hospital, and they can be talking to the corpsman and the technician in the ambulance and telling them what to do to you, how you should be treated. All of that came from our activity.
A president is shot.
President Reagan is the first president in the history of the United States to have been hit by a bullet and survived. The reason, in large part, is the technology. This is the emergency room where they brought President Reagan when he was shot. Here at George Washington University Hospital, as at every other major big city hospital, space-age technology has completely infiltrated medical technology. While this surgeon used laser beams to treat his patient's problem, the surgeon down the hall was using artificial arteries made from space materials to treat his patient. According to him, these are but a few of the medical techniques developing from space.
This is one of the latest devices from space technology, and it's used as an implantable infusion pump. We can infuse insulin, cancer chemotherapeutic agents, or antibiotics for prolonged intravenous infusion without patients having to have repeated injections or through having to come into the hospital for prolonged periods of time. One of the recent advances from space technology has been the development of digital subtraction arteriography. This uses the same kind of technology that was used to photograph Mars and Saturn, and is called computer enhancement of images. And thus we can see that an arteriogram like this shows this very tight narrowing of one of the blood vessels to the brain, which we'll then need to operate upon. This is one of the older pacemakers. A pacemaker is a device used to control heart rate and rhythm, and in the past it was necessary to implant this under the skin in order to keep some people alive. Now, with advanced miniaturization technology as well as lighter weight materials, we're able to implant much smaller devices, and they last 5 times as long. As you can imagine, this has led to dramatic improvements in the quality of patients' lives.
Science. Science. We love it. This next film is for parents only, so if you're not a parent, you need to turn this off. This is what kids think about marijuana. Enjoy.
I smoke about 10 joints every day. I enjoy getting high. I don't do it because my friends do. I just like getting high and like the feeling, and I'm more cheerful and I laugh, and it's just, I don't know. I enjoy it.
Well, I started using pot in the 9th grade. A couple friends got me high for once, and I liked it, and I started getting into it. My parents, for the first time that they found out that I was spending so much money on it, that was their concern, the money that I was spending on it. Being high is really hard to explain. It makes me feel good, yeah. Like going out with my friends, living it up. It's basically a way just to live it up. Just take it as it comes. I just buy it, smoke it, and nothing comes out of it except ashes.
I was around 11 years old, and it started with my cousin. She was around, 15 at that time, and she introduced me and my other cousin around my age to a joint. And, just say, wow, what is this? And they showed us how to hit a joint, we're saying, okay, and we got high.
Well, really, the first time I smoked, I was about 8 years old. But, it was when I first tried it. And I'd say I started, smoking it, on a regular basis about the age of 10.
One night, Rodney came in, and he went straight to his room, and he was 11, I guess. And, and I went in there, and I said, Rodney, because he usually, he'll stop and talk to me. And so I went in there, and his eyes were just all, and I knew that he'd been smoking.
National surveys are now showing that 11% of seniors in our high schools are getting stoned or drunk, which is a better term, every single day. We did a survey last year that showed 30 to 70% of high school students are getting stoned 3 to 5 times a week. That's a lot of marijuana use.
It really got popular with my age group, and I went to my first party when I was 12, and I had a ball. And I just kept on going to parties. And finally, around when I was 13, I got into high school. And I started to find out where to get it, who to buy it from, who the dealers were. And it was like a big family, of drug users.
Young people like Regina usually are in experimental stage of life. They want to try out new things. The problem that we're seeing more and more is in the places where they have recreation, like the parks, in places like schoolyards. There are more people who are, making marijuana available to them. And out of curiosity, more of them are trying it. And they're trying it because it's available, it's relatively inexpensive, And it's supposed to be fun, and every young person wants to do something for fun. So they'll try it. Sure, why not?
I used to get high on the bus a lot coming to school, and get to school, hang in the front, and go get high again. There's nothing else better to do sometimes.
In the morning, if you'd meet a friend before school and get high, you know, it just made the day, you looked forward to it a little more.
When I first started smoking, it was like I was really conscious of just what I was doing, and all of my friends were getting high, and it was a lot of peer pressure.
I did it because, you know, I thought I could be with his gang, you know, being older than what I was. When I first get up, I smoke a joint because I get higher easier, you know, in the morning when I first wake up because my body hadn't started going, you know.
It was, I guess, peer pressure. I never wanted to admit that, but as I think about it, I think it was.
Yeah, 90% of them use every day. It's, you know, what I know. And the other 10% go to school, you know, good little kids, and I'm one of them now.
Well, most of them find that life, just every day going to school and whatever, is pretty boring. And for them, it's a kick, you know, using marijuana makes them high, makes things funny, makes their dull lives exciting. And many of them don't know how to deal with their boredom, so they find that using marijuana is one way of being, it's entertaining. They can laugh at things that weren't funny before. They enjoy things better. That's what they think.
Yeah, I could say that I would get into the music more. You know, it's not really a hard drug that totally alters your mind. You know, it doesn't make you stumble and it doesn't make you slur your words. It's not all that different from being straight, you know. Being high doesn't affect my performance. You're just more relaxed and you're more into what you're doing.
It's a euphoric thing, and it's the best way to listen to music, if not the only way to listen to music.
You can hear every sound, you know, just every little tone of music you can hear, and it just, your body just moves to it, you know, to the sounds, and it's weird. You think you can do things better, think your conversation's better, you know, I really know what I'm talking about when I'm high, you know. And it sounds stupid, but that's really the way people think.
Now,
I found I could do most of the work, and I really enjoyed the work when I was high. But I couldn't really read as well when I was high. But I could do math and all that really well. I found that I liked it a lot. It was fun.
The marijuana user has a kind of delusion where he feels that marijuana is not affecting him, or if it's affecting him, it's making him a better person, a more sensitive person, a more intuitive person, a more laid-back person, a kinder person, a more intelligent person. In fact, when we test that, whether it's at the wheel or at the keyboard or at tests in school, it doesn't work out. They, in fact, perform much worse.
I just know more when I'm high because, you know, I can think better. Because my head just feels good and I can write down some answers. Sometimes they're right.
When I go into class high, either I won't do my work or I'll go home and then I'll get high and then I can do it, you know, in a snap. It's just easy then.
Before school, sometimes I smoke pot, you know, and sometimes I don't. But, you know, when I'm in school, I can think clearly. You know, it might not be, you know, real pot, you know, it might not be real quick, like, but I can think clearly, I think.
This is the worst year Rodney has ever had at school. He has always been a really good student. And, I mean, I know how smart he is, and I've always been told that he's a really good student. But this year, no, he made like 3 Ds on his report card. And he goofs off.
There would be things that I could do when I was high. I'd do things like I'd draw diagrams that were really explicit, and it would tell 1,000 words instead of writing it all down. There's some things like art and woodshop can really be creative when you're high.
Well, maybe make
I like to be high and do my artwork because it's just, I'm more comfortable and I see my work, you know, differently. You're more creative, definitely. You know, I feel more creative, more relaxed. I could deal with people more and better.
So you're almost done.
Yeah.
Are you going to put a title
No,
on
I'm not almost done. Look at how much I've got to do.
it? Well,
That is going to be
you're
incredible.
You're going to outline every one of these?
Every little thing.
But what about here? Don't you want to let that just go?
And you talk with the teachers, and as the principal, when I go in and talk with them, what we find is that the performance starts to go down. In math class, they can't grasp the concepts. They seem to be tripping out on you. In English class, their writing ability and their ability to comprehend it. And now when you talk about, you know, an art project or music, the loss of interest. The whole thing seems to be get out and get with your friends and get a joint and get high. You see the grades start to drop from A, B, C, and you find a lot of failure.
As a school psychologist, I view the problem here as a fairly large one. You know, when I see kids who are very alienated, very low energy, missing a lot of classes, there's a syndrome that develops, you know, that you can pretty soon recognize as, I bet this kid is heavily into pot. They don't care about classes. They don't care very much about anything except rapping with their friends. They usually meet after school, rap, smoke a joint or two, and it makes them feel that whatever they're doing when they're under the influence, that it's a lot better than it really is. So it takes away a certain amount of pain that adolescents must feel in terms of not being able to accomplish, not being able to measure up.
You know, I thought maybe I was just putting so much pressure on him. And I said, Rodney, you know, are you trying to escape from me or, you know, your family life? Is it so bad? And he says, no. He said, I love you. And he said, I just love everything. And he does. The child is, you know, I don't know.
Our culture tells kids in many different ways that it's okay to get high and it's okay to get super high. We have head shops that are selling paraphernalia in great numbers. It's now a $600 million a year operation. We have the rock stars who are saying that you can use anything you want and you don't have to pay any dues. We have a whole literature of magazines that are saying you can get high, that are even giving you sendaways where you can get the formulas and learn how to make drugs. Our culture is giving a big message that getting high is okay.
Your actions are sometimes slower and you'll laugh at yourself. You'll say, wow, I tripped over that, you know, how could I miss that? And you just start laughing. And when you start laughing, you just can't stop, you know, and you think it's so funny. And in reality, it's not. And reality is dull and boring and true. And who wants something dull and boring?
They don't know what's real, what's really going on. They don't enjoy life. They don't enjoy life unless they're high. And therefore, they don't learn how to make themselves happy. But the reality is they don't remember very much of what happens to them. They stop doing certain things, like they probably cut down on a certain amount of activities. They don't see other friends. They don't do physical activities. Sports drop off. Certain things that, other kinds of fun things they could be doing, they start to do it less. They stop communication with some of their friends, the ones who squares. They stop communication with their parents. They get themselves cut off, and then they find themselves alone. Then they're left in a position where they can be picked up by people that maybe they would have never, ever been with. But now that they're in this situation, you know, those are the only people left to be friends with.
We got a little place down by the school, a little walkway called the Steps. You can go there, and usually a couple people there. And, you know, if they got a joint, I might have a joint, we'll match them, you know. They smoke theirs with me and I smoke mine, you know, we just get high. And then, you know, just go to school and just usually go through the school day. And then after school, we might go down to the Steps again, you know, smoke some more. And then, you know, go home and eat supper. And then, you know, after supper, I usually go back out and party some more.
There's no better example of impairment of motor function than we have with driving an automobile or operating complicated machinery. The sadness is that many a kid feels that he drives better. The term that's often used is, I get into my driving more. But when that's tested, either in an automobile or in a laboratory situation that simulates road conditions, there is a deterioration of function.
I'd much rather be high if I'm driving than I'm driving, you know. There's, being high doesn't, you know, affect my driving ability whatsoever. It's, you know, I can, some people say like your depth perception will be, you know, altered. Mine isn't.
There is a loss of vision, especially peripheral vision. There is a loss of memory, and there's a loss of judgment, so that it may show up in the following way. A driver proceeding home who's stoned may respond perfectly well to a stoplight, to a stop sign, to a familiar turn. But if something unfamiliar and unexpected happens, a child or an animal, very significant loss of function. Well, there's a tremendous amount of new material that is coming out in the last several years about how hormonal function is affected. We're talking about levels of sex hormones, testosterone in men, estrogen in women, growth hormone, its effect on the pituitary. Now that's serious stuff, and to take that lightly makes no sense in my opinion. We need to be very cautious about that. Further, we have evidence that marijuana is retained for a long time in the body. If we were to have a shot or several shots of liquor right now, in 24 hours, our system would eliminate all of the alcohol and there would be no traces in the body. If I were to have a joint of marijuana now, in 30 days, we could still detect traces of the active ingredient, THC, in my system. Now, that means that the regular user is likely to have a cumulative effect. If we add that then to hormonal changes and effects on certain cellular function, we may have long-range effects that no one has even dreamed of yet.
Kids generally like to take the pro-marijuana side, and they tend to go for that research, that information that says marijuana is not harmful, or marijuana is less harmful than alcohol or less harmful than cigarettes, that kind of information. Whereas anything that would say the opposite of that, they don't like to deal with that.
I just do it and ignore the other things, I guess. I ignore the things that people say that'll hurt you and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it is bad for you. I don't know, it's just, it makes you lose your memory, that's all I know.
I've just about heard it all. I mean, you know, I've had people try to, you know, my mom just tried to, you know, tell me things that scare me, but I've, you know, I don't really, you know, not much scares me about it.
I'm not really worried about what people have told me or what I've heard, read, you know, so far, but my mind might change later on in the years. But so far, I don't think I'm going to quit. Not for a while, a long while.
I think, you know, if you're not really sure about something, you should find out for yourself. And I've been smoking it now for, you know, on a regular basis for about 4 or 5 years. And, you know, I'm leading a pretty good life. There ain't nothing the matter with me.
There's no place in the United States today that you can go that marijuana is not available. And not only is it available, but it's cheap. So that if a kid wants to have a single joint or a few joints, it's very easy for he or she, along with friends, to have it in a regular way.
Well, I just, you know, call up the dealer or, you know, get in touch with him and ask them if they got any to sell. And if they did, you know, I'd set it up and meet them somewhere or go to their house or something.
$40?
Yeah, it's,
I have no problem. I go to my dealers. I have probably about 12 or 13 of them. One of those guys has got to have it.
What do you think? I'm on. Go for it. Yeah, all right. You got how much? 20? There you go. Ounce usually costs about $35. So, you know, just regular marijuana. And it just costs $35. And a half bag, which is a half an ounce, costs $17.50. It's not really hard. I mean, you know, everything in life costs you a little bit. I mean, you know, to get a car costs, you know, you work up to save money to buy a car. I just save money to buy pot.
Hey, where can I pick up a joint, or where can I pick up a sack? Oh, over here, over there. You know, so-and-so ran out, so you have to go to so-and-so. You know, there's usually a main dealer where all the small dealers at the schools go to.
Very often as we focus on what happens to the marijuana user, we sort of put the magnifying glass on that person, and we forget all of the other people in his or her life that are affected. For example, family interactions are greatly affected. If a kid becomes secretive, guilty, angry, tense, there can be a significant disruption in the quality of family life.
Well, when I first noticed it, she was acting really bored all the time, and it seemed like she just had to be on the go all the time. And I thought there was something strange about it, but I never thought it was marijuana, you know, or anything like that. I just thought that she was just bored with life, but why, I didn't know. When Gina's grades started going down and skipping classes and stuff like that, well, I didn't know what it was. I think if I had known this, then I could have said, hey, she's on marijuana. Maybe I could have done something right away, because I just didn't know what it was. And I think if parents would learn these things, they could see the difference in their child.
Parents can get together, they can form support groups. And I'm talking about forming support groups in their neighborhood to use the resources that are available to them. There are parents within every community who share similar kinds of problems.
That's the other part of the egg, isn't it?
There was really a denial period. We really didn't accept the fact and take steps, right, you know, any real hard steps at that time.
10 hours a week again next week. All for you had? I guess that was my biggest problem. I was shocked. Like, not Gina, not my sweet little girl, you know. I tried to talk to her, you know, asking her what's wrong. And she was missing a lot of school, too. And I just kept trying to find out why, you know, what have I done wrong?
I'm just going to look at it.
My mother gave up on me, and that hurt, you know, although I was using heavily, that hurt. And, you know, I realized my family's going to be the only one that's with me for the rest of my life, you know, and these people out on the streets could give a damn about me.
I never can agree with the fact that you can be a buddy to your child. You're still the parent, but I think you should be a good listener. I think young people like adults who listen, but still are strong enough to have some conviction, to have an opinion on something. They like direction. I think young people want a friendly listener, but they also want an adult to take some kind of stance. When you say, I'm your friend and it doesn't matter to me what you do, they usually don't respect you. They like for you to have an opinion. They like for you to give them an alternative. If not this, what?
Well, there's a word I really like, and as a principal I use it too, is tough love. The person who really loves a child but knows how to be an adult and give leadership. The most effective thing is to show them love, be able to express affection, but also to show them direction.
Talk, communicate with your young person Don't yell and cry and get upset and say, oh, why are you doing this to me? You know, everybody would say, oh, why are you doing this to me? Those young people are doing it to themselves.
Parents have to understand that they do have power, that they have power to change their situation. They have power within themselves to deal with the problems that they're facing. But parents can't deal with their problems until they get to the point where they say, okay, I've had enough. What can we do? Let's do something.
If you could just get your children and just, you know, have maybe twice a week group sessions, you know, with the parents and the children, and you know, just talk, and maybe you could find out maybe there is a problem that's causing these children to, you know, just get high and you know, do all these things.
So I have a parent group, a parent support group I go to, and most of their kids was in the same situation, and they all had the same problem. They don't know where it went wrong or what to do about it, and then we got this parent group together, and we meet every Monday, and we talk about these things, and it's easier now for me.
When a parents group forms, or when parents begin to examine this, they get all kinds of new information. That information arms them so that they can take a stand. They are further positioned by having company and companionship into feeling that they're not alone.
I'll probably smoke until I'm in my 40s or 50s. And I mean, you know, I might not ever quit smoking, you know. From viewpoint now, I don't think I ever quit.
The parent has to say that I care enough about you that I don't want you to endanger your health. I'm not going to sit back and allow you to injure yourself and to get stoned in a regular way as you grow up.
You're not going to win this in an arm wrestle. You're going to win it because ultimately you care about your child. You want him to care about himself. You want him to respect himself and have good feelings about himself and be thoughtful about his body. And your love for him is what is going to convince him. You have to operate from a position of feeling that you have a right to do that you have a right to take a position, that you don't have to back off and leave it to someone else.
So I saw Charlotte was mentioned in there, and I was trying to figure out where that southern twang of the girl was from, because it sounded really familiar. And sure enough, yeah, I feel like she was in Charlotte, which was, I don't know, 45 minutes from where I grew up in North Carolina, in Albemarle. And so, there you go. I don't know. Was it really for parents only? I don't think so. I think that And what's hilarious is the copy of the film, I don't have it with me, had, like, it said adult viewing only. I'm like, really? This is basically the same as every other drug film that came out around this time. Thanks for joining us today. I very much appreciate your eyeballs, and happy to be back showing you some more films, because we have a bunch. I pulled a bunch of films. We moved some more films to the Film Vault over the weekend, and so from that I pulled some titles that I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that, or oh, I really should digitize that. So anyways, if you like what you saw, you can donate via the Super Thanks button. You can hit the like, the subscribe, the notification bell. I don't know, what are the other social media things? You can also go and use the Super Thanks button to donate some cash that we will spend on storage unit rent, or we will spend on, I think we got enough milk crates, but we might spend on some white artist tape, because I'm running low on that. And that's literally white artist tape. You can also watch films, other films on our channel. We're getting a lot of new traffic on there, although Rabies is kind of bouncing up. That film that perpetually YouTube is recommending to people has been tampered down a little bit, thanks to people thinking that the thumbnail from Farm Family in Winter looks like Brock Lesnar, the wrestler. What a weird world. And the fact that the Hindu worship film is incredibly popular in India. So those have brought us. Also, Basic Computer Terms is getting a lot of traffic in the blogs. So keep watching stuff. Makes us happy. And join us tomorrow, and we'll watch some more films. Maybe the ones that I'm transferring right now. All right, everybody. Take care. Bye.